Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. So today we are going to do Leetcode daily challenge, best time to buy and sell stock for. So as you can see, it is the fourth version of this question series, right? But still we are not much concerned about the previous three versions. Let us go ahead with this version and let us know that how to solve this question. So let us read this question first. So we are given an integer array prices. The price of I is the price of a given stock on ith day and an integer k. So these are the two things. Basically price array which is being given to us, and in this I days are basically n days are given to us, and at particular I position we are given with the price of the stock, and then we are given with the number of transactions, that is k. So here two transactions are possible. So what the question wants is find the maximum profit you can achieve. You may complete at most k transactions. So at most k transaction we can complete, but yeah, we can also complete less than that, but not more than k. So that's it want to say. And then it says that you may not engage in multiple transactions simultaneously. That is, you must sell the stock before you buy again. So the thing is that whatsoever stock we are holding, that we are required to sell, and then only we can buy a new stock. So that's the thing it want to say. So in this whole question, the only thing is, like, as I was going through, this question could be done with recursion, and then over the recursion it could be done with the bottom up top down DP, right? So out of that bottom up DP, we can come up with these states. Basically the state machine, what we say, that method of the solution could be done out of this, so that we will be going to do ahead into this solution. So before going ahead with the same, let us first go ahead and try run for a particular example, so that it could become much easier to recognize that what sort of state we can have, and then we can have that in our solution. So that's the thing. But before that, let us see the constraints. So constraints are pretty much low, so that's why this question was basically can be done by DP. So that's why whatsoever states we will be having, so those states won't give us TLE. So here you can see that at most 100 transactions could be there, and even there could be a scene that we are not doing any transaction. So in that scenario, our answer would be directly 0, because when we are not doing any transaction, so it would be at initial state only, that is at the 0, and price length is at most 1000. So basically 1000 stocks we would be given with for doing our transaction, and price would be at max 1000. So this is the whole scenario for this particular question, and these were the constraints. Now comes the part that how we are required to do this question. So in layman manner, 1 minute. Okay. Yeah. So in layman manner, if we see this particular price array, if we plot a graph, right? So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So in this particular, if we see, in this we can make at most k transactions, right? At most. So that means minimum to that we can make. So at this point, we are having being at 2. So at this point, if we buy this stock, right? And then when the price increases at 4, at this particular moment, if we sell our stock, right? And here we buy our stock. So at buying, we incurred with a loss of 2, right? Because we were at the starting, I don't know that what amount of money we were having, but whatever we were having, so say we were having some X amount of money. So out of that, because we were buying, so we lost X minus 2, right? But when we sold that stock at price 4, so now we gain X minus 2 plus 4, right? And if we say that if the value of X is basically equal to 0, so this comes out to be towards 0, right? So out of this only, when it comes to 0, so X basically becomes Basically here I'm saying X for the profit. So here X basically becomes 2, right? So here we earn the profit of 2. And if we don't sell at this particular point and next transaction is at 1, if we sell at this particular moment of point, right? And earlier we had bought at this particular point and we sell at this point. So here we are incurring the loss of -1, right? So that's better that we buy at this point and sell at this particular point so that we can earn the profit of 2. If this was that particular moment, then we were starting at 2. Now comes the part that if we don't buy or sell at 2, but if we directly start from this 4, so the new graph would be something like this: 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So here the thing would be that 1 is at 2, then there is 4, and then there is 1. So if we buy at 4, right, and if we sell at 1, because surely at the end we are required to sell it. If we hadn't sold it before, then only we will get the profit, right? Else we are just incurring our own cost, incurring on our own cost only, right? So that's why at this particular moment we will be getting this much profit, basically a loss of 3 and profit of -3, right? So that's why this won't be wise enough. This is much wiser enough, right? And then if we start at 1 only, right? So at 1 we can only buy it, not even sell it, right? So that's why at this particular moment we don't get any loss or profit. So out of these two scenarios, right, these two scenarios, then we got the profit. We actually got the profit when we were basically at 2, means buying at 2 and selling at 4. So at that particular moment our profit was 2, and this is what they have told us, that buy on day 1 price 2, sell on day 2 price 4, profit would be 4 minus 2 equals to 2. So like this only we are required to make our states. So the thing here would be that how we can buy a particular stock. So when we want to buy a particular stock, means we will be basically checking for the next stock, that how we can buy that next stock. Means if whatsoever price we are at, means at this 2 we are at, right? So we will be checking that if we make the I transaction, means it's just the next transaction which we will be making. So at that particular moment, what cost we could incur. So basically we are required to have the minimum cost. If we would be having minimum cost, then only we can buy that particular and gain more profit, right? The thing is that if we were at 4, right? So at this particular 4 we can't buy. We are just obliged to sell, because after this we just got this one, and that one is basically less than 4. So we will check that the next one is basically lesser, right? So that's why at this particular moment we will buy, but at this particular moment we won't buy. So this is the thing. If this would have been something like this, means it goes to 5, right? So surely we would have discarded this point also. We would have bought at this 1, and then at 5, then at this moment if we sold it, then at this moment we got the profit of 4, right? So that's why we will check that for the next cost of cost, right, that which one is minimum. So we will check if the present one is basically minimum which we are having, or the next thing would be that how much means the present price which we are having, means starting from this 4 only. If we check if the price minus profit of the previous one, you can better say the profit which we earned by buying the stock at the previous transaction. So that's the thing, like this only we are required to make our state for basically checking for the buying of a particular stock. So that's the thing which we are required to do. So this was one state, means basically for buying. Now comes the part for selling. For selling, the thing would be that now again we will be checking for the next one on the basis of profit, that what profit we will be basically earning. So for the next point, we will check that if by the next transaction how much profit we are able to earn. So profit will check that maximum point, that this particular or profit being earned by the price of the present stock which is being there, subtracting the price at which we bought the stock. So in that context, and that would be simply on the basis of cost of I plus 1. So like this only we will be able to figure out that how much profit we will be able to earn on selling this particular stock. So on the basis of these two only, we will be able to figure out with the k transactions and at the end the answer. So basically these are the two states. One is this one and the other one is this one. These are the two states on the which we will be able to figure out with our answer. Now the thing is, I'm damn sure that at this first impression you won't be able to understand it, but now let me show you the example for this thing. So here's the second example which was there, and these are basically those two states which I had written. So cost of I plus 1, basically the buying cost of the next stock. So here what we are doing is we are checking that minimum out of the cost of the next stock which is being there, not just the next stock but basically the next transaction which we will be doing, either buying just next stock or it could be any other stock. Just it is like means if we are at 2, right, then there is 3, then there is 4. So if our present price is this one, then our next stock is this one. So that is the thing. And if our present stock is this one, then our next stock is this one. So basically we would be checking according to the whatever stock we are at. According to that only we will be checking that buying this stock or selling this stock makes us profit with respect to the next stock or not. So in that context we are making these two states. So that's the thing. So here the thing is that cost of I, which basically represent the buying cost, and the profit of I plus basically represent the selling cost. So for buying the just next stock, means basically making the transaction for just next stock, which is the minimum? Is the price of that stock minimum? If that is so, then we will buy it. Or if the price of our present stock minus the profit which we earned, right, on selling the last stock, so if that is minimum, then in that moment we won't be buying our next stock. So this was a logic which we are using here. And the next thing is profit of I plus 1, which basically represents our selling cost. So here we will be checking for maximum of profit which we earn after selling our stock, or the profit made by is that the current price which we are having, subtracting the price at which we bought the stock. So basically this particular is that scenario when we are having a particular stock, means that next stock which is being there, if by means the present which we are having and the next stock which is being there, if by subtracting we get the maximum, then we will be basically selling that. Because at this particular moment when 2 was there and 4 was there, you already figured out that this particular 2 is basically minimum, right? And this next transaction, that is this 4, that is maximum, right? So when we subtract this price minus cost of I plus 1, so cost of I plus 1 basically for this 4, right? And the price which we are having at this present moment, that is at 2, right? And the profit which we would be having at that particular moment, because this profit comes out to be from the previous states only. So at that particular moment our profit is basically 2, right? So that's why here the profit is 2, and the earlier profit which we were having, that is at this particular point only, which was 0, because at that moment we just bought our stock, right? So out of both of them, what is greater? So out of both of them, our profit for selling that particular stock is basically greater only, right? So that's why we will be selling that stock when our price becomes 4. So that's why we will be selling at this moment of point. So that is why the profit made is basically the maximum out of the profit earned at just the next stock and the current price minus the price at which we bought the stock. So that's the thing which we are required to check, and basically these are those two states. So the thing is that when we choose maximum out of profit in this particular scenario, it helps us to decide whether to sell the previous stock at this time or not. And if the current price at which we bought is maximum, then we can sell, else we won't be able to sell. Because of this example only you can check. If our current price is this 2 and the next price is basically 4, so you can clearly see that now we can sell our stock at this particular 4, because at this moment we will be able to figure out with the profit of 4 minus 2, that is 2. And earlier our profit was basically 0 at that particular moment of time. So that's the scenario here. So yeah, this was pretty much more theoretical explanation, and now comes the next part. Let us go ahead with the dry run of the case. So in this particular, we can see that when our price starts from 3. So here in the first transaction, our cost is basically 3 at the starting most point, because we can see that minimum out of cost of I plus 1. I plus 1 is basically our the way we are starting for this is we are starting from this 0 point. Here also 0, and here in the profit also we are taking the profit as 0 only, and the cost also as 0 only at the starting, because at starting we were not having anything. So from the previous only we are comparing and starting for the next one. So at this particular moment of point when we are starting, so our I plus 1 would be minimum of cost of I plus 1 and price minus profit of I. So here you can see that at the starting everything was 0, right? So when we got to 3, basically for 3 we can take that what is minimum. The price we are having 3, right? And the profit which was earlier, that was 0, because at the starting there was nothing. So that's why at this moment means for the first equation, yeah. So at this first equation, the cost which was there, so the cost becomes minimum of the present cost, that is 3, comma the price which we have taken, that is 3, and the profit which was earlier made, that was 0, right? So that by out of these we got the answer 3. And the second equation which is being there, not the second transaction but equation which is being there, is of profit, means profit which we made by having this 3. So the profit is basically the profit of I plus 1. So here we can see that at this particular moment we don't have any profit yet, right? Because this is the first stock which we bought. So the profit is basically maximum out of 0, comma price minus profit of I. So price is basically 3 only, right? And the profit of previous one, that is 0. So out of this maximum comes out to be 3 minus 0. But that is not the case here. Yeah, because 3 is there, and the profit because we are starting. Yeah, so 3 is there, and yeah, profit of I, that is previous one which we are basically getting. Okay, so here the thing would be profit of I, that should be 3 itself only, and that's why it will become 0. Yeah, yes, because the cost of I plus 1, that is 3 here, and the price which we are taking 3. So that's why we are taking. The thing is that at this particular moment in time, the profit which we made was basically 0, right? And next the thing was the price which we took was 3, and the cost of I plus 1, which we already calculated at that moment of time. That cost was basically the cost at which we bought it. So that was 3 itself, right? So that's why we got this and this. So this is the thing, and that's why we got profit also as 0. So by using this equation, we will be moving ahead and get all these numbers, and like this only we will be able to figure out with our coding part. So basically the only thing in this question was to figure out with the state that we are required to make, and as we are required to just make the at most k transactions, so that's why we would be required to run our loop in such a manner that it goes till k only. and we will be checking out for each price from this prices array. So for that purpose only we will be able to figure out with the next cost and the next price. So in all that context, basically a time complexity becomes order of n into k, and the space complexity becomes order of k, and that is because at a particular moment of time at max we will be storing the k values only. So that's why the space complexity becomes order of k. So this was the explanation part for this particular question. Now comes the part that how we will be coding this question. So here's how we will be coding this theme. So in this question, what we are going to do is, as I told earlier, that we are required to make k transaction as per the question, right? So in this thing, first there is a base case, which is basically when there are when there is k equal to 0, right? That is, we are not able to make any transaction. Then at that moment of time only, our answer would be directly 0. It's all just because of the fact that when we are not making any transaction, then there won't be any profit, right? Else the thing is that if the price size is basically 0, means if we are not able to have any stock, right, then how we will get any profit or loss, right? So that's why we are required to return 0 at that moment of time. Because the thing is that this question we are not doing with DP, so that's why means not exactly by that bottom up DP, but by just the state of that particular DP. So that's why at the starting only we were obliged with these what we say as means these base case. Else the thing was in the DP only we would have directly make our state that particular 2D vector, 1D vector in such a manner that our base case was directly handled in that tabular form only. So now here we are taking two vectors. One vector would be for our cost and second one would be for our profit. The cost basically direct towards the buying cost and the profit basically direct towards the selling cost. So this is the thing. So at the starting we are initializing the profit as -1. We could have initialized it as 0 also, but in our whole process of the state, it by itself make it as 0 whenever we found any particular moment where the buying cost and the selling cost becomes equal. So that's why even if it is -1, then also it would have become 0 at that moment of time. And at this particular point, we are making our cost basically at int max. It's all just because of the fact that at the starting moment, we are making our cost as maximum limit, that this much cost we could have. But the thing is that at any particular moment of time, we will be having our cost in such a manner that presently at the thing which we buy is basically the minimum one, and at this thing which we sell is at the maximum one. So that's why according to that only, if we take at the starting as int max and then we figure out with the minimum out of the present and the next one which we can have. So minimum out of them would be that one only, right, out of that int max and the other one. So that other one would be minimum. So that's why initialization is in such a manner. Now conceive this part, that profit of 0. So basically at 0 transaction means when we are not doing any transaction, our profit would be 0 and even our cost would be -1. So this is the thing which we are taking. So cost we can take as the int max, which we are already taking, right? And the cost would be that already told, and the profit 0 because we haven't bought anything, hadn't made any transaction. So that's why profit of 0 would be 0. And now comes the next part. Here the whole loop is there. So it runs k times for each price. Basically starting from a particular price, we are making next k transactions. So that's why it is like this. That is taking that price. What is the result for the next k selections? Basically k transactions. So here we are selecting each price and here we are doing k transactions. That's why this is n into k solution. Now here are the two states which we have taken. So basically for the first state it was something like this, that cost of I plus 1 equals to minimum of cost of I plus 1 comma price minus profit of I. So basically this state is in such a manner that the next cost which is being there and the present price minus the profit which we have earned from the previous transaction. And this is the profit of I plus 1. That simply means that what profit we can make by selling the stock at the next price. So that would be, we will check for the next stock's price, next stock's profit which we can earn, or the price minus the cost of that particular buying that particular stock. So these are the two states which are being there, and at the end we will be returning profit which is being earned at the K transaction. So this was all for this particular question, and the time complexity is basically order of n into k as I already told, and the space complexity is basically order of k. So order of k because you can see that this will go till k only, and n into k because of these two. So this was all for this particular question. If you have any doubt, you could comment it down. I have tried my best for this particular explanation because it was becoming much tough for me to explain this because it was somehow abstract from other concept, but this is how that state machine concept only, which somehow comes in for DP also and the state machine also. So that's why I just try to make it much more easier version with example. So this was all. So if you really like the explanation, you can share among your friends as well, and do like and subscribe to my channel. So this was all. Thank you.